It is recording, and here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited right now. It's been 7 months since the last time I had a podcast, and what better way to start it than to have the extraordinary Natalie Sady, is that right?
That's right.
In the house. I call her Shaniqua because she's got the booty of a black girl, you know, but yeah. Yeah, this girl has been up to some amazing stuff. You would have seen her on The Bachelor. Myself, I've been in a reality TV show for the last few months as well, and that's what's pretty much stopped me from doing this podcast, but we're back. This probably isn't going to be aired for another couple of months just because of, you know, legality and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, let's just talk, find out about what you've been up to, the amazing activism that I know you're a big fan of, and yeah, it's a great opportunity for me to learn all about the Shaniqua / Natalie Sady. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks, welcome to the Crucial Journey podcast. Let's get the show on the road. Boom shakalaka. This is my little intro over here.
It becomes the
like
cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle.
Amalgamation of all the cool, inspirational
the teapot.
teachers
Water
I
can
like.
flow, or it can crash.
Okay. Here we are. There's your beautiful mug, and there I am. We look good on TV, don't we, girl?
We look alright.
Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, last time I did this podcast, I think I was on the verge of doing a reality TV show called The Voice, and I think you probably would have done it around the same time. You guys would have started, like, what, 7 months ago? I know how long these things take.
It's almost been 12 months since I was in the house, and God, time flies. Freaks me out.
12 months?
Yeah, we started filming beginning of July 2013, and I was in the house for a good 2 months.
Damn, so this thing takes a massive chunk out of your life.
It is incredible, and I had a whole week to tie up my life for up to 3 months. You didn't know if you were going to be gone for 3 days or 3 months, and that's full on.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys have been kidnapped and taken on some kind of special mission where you're not able... You have to break all... Well, you have to go dark, as they say. You're not like, able to contact your family. No. You're not able to put anything up on social media. And for what, 12 months... Or 2 months, you're in a place with people that you don't know that well. And it's kind of like you're all competing, right? For the prize.
Well, you are competing, except I went into it with a very different logic. I said I'm not competing with anybody. And I don't know how much production enjoyed that theory, because my whole theory was there's only one of me. And as amazing and beautiful as all of those girls in the house were, none of them were like me. So it was either there or it wasn't with Tim. And, you know, if it was, it didn't matter who else was there. It would have been irrelevant. And if it wasn't there, I'm not going to make a fool of myself for somebody that's not feeling it.
That sounds like the best kind of logic. I mean, you think about, obviously, you're all beautiful girls going on that show, and the one thing that has to stand out is your personality, and you can either try to be a second-rate version of something that isn't authentic with who you are, and that comes across in camera. People can tell when you're being fake, or you can be your natural self, who, let's face it, I mean, obviously, you have a really cool personality, easy to talk to. It's one of the reasons I came up and spoke to you at the launch party we had not long ago, and I think... if anything, that was the best way to go about it.
I didn't know any other way to be. I didn't... With reality TV, people are always complaining about how they were edited and they didn't like how they were portrayed.
Tell me about it.
And for me, I just wanted to make sure I walked away and didn't have any regrets. And there were moments when, you know, there's something that you want to say in the heat of the moment, or you want to get upset about something. And I just sort of took a moment, went inside and thought about it, and I walked away with no regrets. Editing of the show, you know, it showed one side of my personality. I don't think it showed all of me, but with that being said, more than happy with how I was portrayed. Well,
that's pretty good considering most people that get on these shows end up being a little bitter. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of editing that goes on in these shows. A lot of the times you don't get to choose even what you say.
No.
I recently did The Voice, and everyone has this idea that you choose your songs, and not really. I mean, you provide a list of the songs that you're capable of doing, and of course they give you a story, they tell you the song that they want you to perform, and obviously with you, they had a character that they wanted you to portray.
Absolutely.
And I'm guessing a lot of the words that came out of your mouth weren't necessarily true to you?
I was pretty strong. When I was interviewed and asked certain things, there were times when I just looked at the producers and went, not saying that. And they would, you know, and I mean, they're doing their job. They've got a story to tell and they need sort of certain things from you. But for me, if I wasn't comfortable saying it, I refused. And like I said, I think that made their job a little more difficult, but I had to stay true to who I was. And I've worked in the entertainment industry for many, many years, and I couldn't, as amazing an opportunity as it was, I couldn't destroy my career because of something they wanted me to say. So
absolutely.
And what about you? Do you guys go into lockdown?
Oh wait, we're focusing on you, girl. This has got to be about, you know, talk about me anytime. You know, I got this amazing, gorgeous model slash presenter that's just been on The Bachelor. I want to find out more about you, girl.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you, because I actually brought this up not long ago, just at reality TV shows, and a lot of my friends have this attitude of it being a sellout thing to do, and I was wondering if you got that kind of response, and I wanted to ask you why you went on the show, because obviously people have different reasons for doing a show like this, and a lot of people assume that you're just trying to become famous and it's shallow, but I know that there's more to you than this whole presenter model thing. Obviously you stand for things.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I definitely do have my causes that I focus on very strongly. My reasons for going on the show, I've been single for a very long time, and I guess I haven't met anybody in such a long time that I thought, you know what, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. I haven't met anybody, so the opportunity came up, and there were different, I take signs from the universe very seriously.
John the
and it was brought to my attention and I ignored it. Then there was another thing in the middle of the night. I woke up and there was an ad playing, and it was about 3 a.m, and I had my eyes shut, and it was talking about The Bachelor, and it gave the website that you had to go to apply. And I remember falling asleep listening to that website being given out, and I thought, okay, this is starting to be a sign. And so in the end I thought, okay, I've never applied for reality TV, never thought I would do it. But something came up, and so 2 hours before the deadline, I put an application in. My best friend and I thought we were hilarious while we were filling it out, and I didn't think I'd ever hear any more of it. Then very quickly it kind of snowballed and progressed, and I was given the opportunity, and then I had to think about whether or not it was something that I would do. And I sort of thought, you know what, gives me the opportunity to meet someone. I'm assuming they're a pretty stand-up guy, because they would have gone through a screening process of their own. It's the first season, so I thought, you know what, it's the first season of something. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon 12 seasons in. So I sort of thought, okay, this is something fun. It hasn't been tested in Australia.
Okay.
I had watched the American version, and then I thought, if nothing else, it gives me an opportunity to talk about the causes that I care about. And a couple of those are palm oil, because there's certainly not enough awareness about palm oil and the effects that it's having on the environment. And the other thing is domestic violence.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the interesting things I love about you. I mean, I was obviously I found you on Facebook, and I was checking out some of your YouTube videos, and I'm expecting to see a whole bunch of modeling shoots and all that kind of stuff. And I found out you're a presenter, and we're obviously into a lot of the same stuff. You're into activism and the whole palm oil thing, healthy lifestyle, and I'm okay. This girl isn't just a pretty face. Obviously, this girl's deep. So yeah, it's great to see that. Did that come across in The Bachelor? I mean, do you get a chance to show that side of things?
Unfortunately not. It was discussed. I had a moment with Tim where I really did talk about the domestic violence side of things, and we talked for quite a while, and I was very open with him about what I went through. That never made it to air, which is a shame. Same with the palm oil sort of things. With The Bachelor, it's kept very light, and it's very much focused on the love story, not so much the bigger issues, and they've got time restraints, so there's only so much they can show. But I have been able to do a lot since the show with my profile for both of the causes, so
Absolutely.
It's a win in that regard.
I mean, I honestly thought that you would have gotten on the show because you wanted to pursue the career side of things, but it's interesting to find that there was this genuine want to obviously find that person, and I mean that's all good and well. I just want to take on the role of devil's advocate over here, because this is something one of my friends brought up to my attention a while ago, and to be honest, I didn't agree with it. But a lot of people feel as if going on a show like that kind of, it tarnishes the idea of the sanctity of relationships, or if for lack of a better phrase, like this idea of trying to make this reality TV show around something as beautiful as love is not the most admirable thing. I mean, how would you respond to someone that says something like that?
I've watched the American version of the show for a number of years. I haven't seen all of the seasons, but I've certainly seen a number of them, and I say the same thing. I love watching a bit of crazy on my TV. Love seeing these women do stupid things in trying to convince this guy to love them. So when I applied, thinking I wouldn't hear back, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Then when I heard back and I had to make the decision, I sort of went, okay, do I want to do this? And I had an issue with, 25 women all standing in front of this guy saying, pick me, pick me. But when I was actually in the show, the first night I had a bit of an issue. The girls were all sort of running around after Tim like he was an animal in the zoo. They just wanted to look at this man, and they're talking about their love for him, and that was only a few of them, not all of them. And I had an issue with that because I'm saying, can we have a conversation about something else? We'll all get a chance to talk to him. But in the actual situation, I had a rule, and it was another conversation I had with Tim where I said, if you're not into me, tell me now. And he sort of said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I will leave. Send me home. Not interested in playing around. And when it started, I sort of met him and went, okay, he's certainly a good looking man, and he seems lovely, but for me, that was all it was. I needed to see if he could back it up.
Absolutely. And I totally get that perspective because, I mean, at the end of the day, I know a lot of people love to play that chase, but, I mean, what's the point in putting in your time and effort? I mean, this is more than just a TV show for you. Obviously, you're putting your heart on the line, and it hurts getting attached to someone or believing that there's the possibility of something coming to fruition when it's all just a joke. So, obviously, you want to know that you're in this guy's in it for the real deal.
Yeah, and Tim and I had a conversation about that, and part of that was Ed. I sort of said to him, why are you here? Are you're 30? Are you here to tick boxes, or are you here to actually meet someone? Because a lot of people get to a certain point in their life and say, it's time to get married, it's time to have children, it's time to do all these things, and they find someone and they do it, and it's not that it's necessarily the right person, but for them it's the right time. And Tim wasn't about that. With that being said, we had a moment, and I was sort of excited to see what was down the road and if it could turn into something. But I was very close to Anna in the house, who ended up, walking away and is still seeing Tim. And I watched a real love story happen with them, and it was lovely. We would lie in our room at night and she would talk about him, and this was sort of close to me leaving, and I knew she and I were in very different places where he was concerned, and I caught up with her the other day, and they are madly in love. So
it's not just for the camera kind of thing, though.
Oh my goodness, no.
Yeah.
No. And I still have a good relationship with Tim. He's very supportive whenever I've written articles or am doing something about one of the causes that I'm really passionate about. He's one of the first people to jump on board and support me and share the articles or, comment on my things, which is great. And to see those two together, they are perfect for each other.
That is going to be the most beautiful attitude to have. Like, I've always had trouble with the whole catfight nature towards romance, the idea of girls or guys competing for the same person. And my attitude is, look, if someone wants to be with one of my friends or anything like that, like, I often go after the same girl as one of my friends. And if one of us feels as if, you know what, this girl's probably better for you, man. Like, she's got a thing for black guys. You go for it, man. It's all good. Or this person seems like a really sweet person. Obviously, I'm a douchebag, so this person's gonna be better for you. But what I'm saying is that when people get so caught up in the game that they start fighting against each other, rather than having the attitude of saying, look, I just want what's best for us, and it really takes. Like, I just imagine having all of these girls in a house with that cat fight kind of instinct.
We actually had a really supportive house, and I know for the cameras they showed that it was quite bitchy and nasty for the most part. And now what people need to remember is they see about 5% of what is actually filmed, so there is so much more that's never shown. The other thing is, you're living in a house with people you don't know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you cannot leave that compound. You can't leave. You cannot go anywhere, and you start to get on each other's nerves. Now, if you were living in that environment with people you knew, you would get on each other's nerves. So you get to a point where you run out of conversation and stories about your past and all of this. And I think for some girls, there is a competition element to it. For me, this wasn't about winning for the sake of winning. If I won, it was because there was really something there. But realistically, we were all supportive of each other. And as we got further along, there was a little more jealousy because, you know, people are walking away feeling like they've had this amazing date and this great connection with this guy. But for the most part, everyone was really happy for everybody else. We were all experiencing things that we will never experience again. For me, I don't know if I'll ever walk into a cave and have the whole thing lit up by candles and, you know, with a beautiful picnic spread and great wine and all of that set up for me. It'd be nice if it...
As you're seeing that, though, like, I can imagine how beautiful it is, and every girl is imagining that as a perfect date. But as there are cameras on you, it's... I mean, do you find it hard to maintain that spontaneity when you know that everything that you say is going out to potentially millions of people? And
no, because by the time I went on my date, we were sort of so far into filming that you start getting used to the cameras. I mean, for us, it was normal. You go on a date and there are stops through the date for you to go off and have a chat to camera and tell everyone how it's going, and it just kind of becomes normal. By the time you're having... So for me, we went rock climbing and did all of that. So there are cameras everywhere. We weren't focused on the cameras because we're trying to climb this wall, and it was a big rock face we were climbing. So with that, you're not concentrating on the cameras, and we kind of had a bit of a chat afterwards, and it was fine.
Were there challenges as far as competitions, like first one to the top gets a kiss from the man?
On a few dates, we were in the sand dunes. I can't even remember where it was, but apparently the largest moving sand dunes in the Southern Hemisphere, and we were sandboarding down there. So there was a competition with that, and somebody got to ride on a camel with Tim if they were the fastest. But on the one-on-one dates, it's a lot more relaxed and it's a lot easier. And then when we were having our sort of time together, the cameras and the producers were really respectful and really kept their distance, and you sort of forget they're there. And especially in a darkened cave, they're off in the shadows, you can't see them, and you're just having a conversation and a moment with someone. It's actually
romantic.
Weird,
you can say the word.
It sounds weird, but yeah, you sort of forget.
Yeah. And look, I can imagine being in that scenario and getting lost in... What was his name?
Tim.
Tim, yeah. I did actually check out some videos on YouTube, and the guy's a buffed up drink. He seems like a very soulful, friendly giant. And I can imagine, obviously, it's every girl's dream to be in this scenario with a guy like that. I'm going to see if I can find some pictures of this guy on the YouTubes, because one of the things I can do on this awesome podcast I got set up over here is I can actually have the audience see what we're seeing. If I just...
Now you put water into a cup.
No, that's not what I want to do.
It becomes the cup you put.
No, that's not what I want to do either. It's just loading up. There we go. Does he have a Facebook page?
I don't know. I haven't looked for him on a Facebook page.
Well, I know he's definitely on the YouTubes. Let me have a look at The Bachelor 2014.
If you just Google Tim Robards, there will be plenty of photos.
Actually, good point there. Yeah. So what would you say was the best thing about this guy and the worst thing?
The best thing was he was really genuine and he was really lovely. Sort of what you saw is what you got. He and I had some great conversations about meditation and yoga and fitness, and all of that part of him I really enjoyed. Worst part, I can't really think of one. I don't think I had enough time with him to pick up on anything that was really wrong with him.
So it seems like you guys actually had like general interests.
We really did.
Yeah. So I mean, if you had to describe this guy in a nutshell, as far as like what he aspires to, his outlook on life and his passions.
He's got a great outlook on life. It's very positive. He's into fitness. He's he wants to make a difference and for the good of the world and himself and all of that, which I think is all really admirable. So
it's all right. You don't have to say anything negative about. One of the things I love about these shows is they always try to get you to come up with something that is not good about someone. I feel like I'm doing it now. Like, what?
No,
Give us some.
but that's fine.
But if there isn't anything, I mean, that's.
There really isn't, and
fine.
On the show in our interviews, I don't think I really said anything bad about anyone. There were a couple of run-ins with 2 girls, and I might have commented on that, but even that wasn't really nasty. I sort of think people have their own journeys, and you kind of have to accept people, and if you don't like their energy and who they are, you just distance yourself and walk away. It's really simple.
That's
Better
fair.
than getting caught up in the vortex of nastiness and negativity.
Absolutely. You know, I'm having a bit of trouble bringing this up. I think my network's kind of cacted, but it's all good. Let's just keep it on the quality of the conversation, yo. But Shaniqua, I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that I know you're really interested in, because there is this other side to you. It's
Yes.
not just about the beautiful face and romance and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. What is this palm oil passion that you have?
Okay, so palm oil is something that not a lot of people know about, but palm oil is an ingredient that is in 50% of our foods and household items. It is, the problem with palm oil is to make the palm oil, big companies are going into the forests of Borneo and Sumatra and basically just logging them illegally to put palm plantations in there, and what's happening is the natural rainforests are being destroyed. The orangutans, elephants, tigers, sun bears are all being killed, wiped out. Just horrible things are happening, and the deforestation is happening at such a massive rate that if we keep going, there will be no orangutans left in the world, or at least not in the wild. The elephants and tigers are heading in the same direction, and it's just disgusting. Apart from the cruelty to these animals, the environment, we as a world cannot survive if we don't have these rainforests and things like that. They are the lungs of this planet. If we keep destroying them at the rate with which we are, there will be no planet to live on, and people don't kind
Appreciate
of grasp
that. Yeah.
how important it is.
I only just found out, well, this morning really, when I tried to do a bit of research on the whole palm oil thing, so I didn't sound like a complete retard. I was actually checking out a YouTube page. 50% of household products are made up of palm. I think if you ask most people, they wouldn't know what palm oil is. You
No.
know, it's like, isn't that? I mean, why is it such a necessary commodity? I mean, in the 21st century, you'd think that we could probably like find some replacement for something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Just hold on one sec. I'm listening to you. It's just, I noticed I got this thing. It's malfunctioning. I think it's got some kind of residue in it, and it's not smelling too nice. Let me just turn that off. All good.
Okay, so
Got a
with
very unprofessional outfit over here. Trying to keep it legit, though. Sorry, sweetie.
no, it's all good.
Okay.
So with beauty products and household products, which makes up about 10% of palm oil usage, those products cannot be manufactured without palm oil. They have been using palm oil since the dawn of time, or as long as they've been around. If it was only that industry using palm oil, we would have no issue with the environment or anything like that. The problem is the amount that is being used for food and other products. The reason it's so appealing is palm oil lengthens, I think, shelf time of a lot of products. It's incredibly cheap because when they're sourcing it through illegal logging and things like that, they are then selling that palm oil for $5 a tonne. It is incredibly cheap, so it comes down to bottom line. This is where some of these big companies need to sort of look at their morals, and you know, there has to be a balance. I understand the economics of all of this, and that these companies are looking after their shareholders, but there needs to be a balance where you go, okay, we can get that incredibly cheap, but if we source it through a certified sustainable source, we'll be paying a little bit more, but we're not destroying the earth.
Absolutely.
So that's sort of the issue. So with a lot of the food companies, there are alternatives. It comes down to a monetary reason for continuing to use it. And the other thing is we're now pushing, yes, we would love for palm oil to not be used, but if they are going to use it, it needs to be sourced from a certified sustainable source where it can be tracked from plantation to mill to the final product, and know that there is no more deforestation happening, that the animals aren't being killed, because over there they're seeing the orangutans as pests. There's footage and documentaries of people filming in the rainforest, pure virgin rainforest, at 7 a.m. by 10 a.m. it has been completely logged, and there are animals wandering around not understanding what's happened.
Yeah, it definitely seems like one of those issues. I mean, I don't necessarily have a grasp on the general feeling of the society at the moment, but I kind of have a feeling most people aren't aware about this as an issue.
Absolutely.
I mean, everyone's familiar with the whole dolphins thing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're familiar with, I'm a bit of a hippie, and I'm all about animal cruelty.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one for me. And I think we have enough people, well, not necessarily enough, that's for sure, but I think that's pretty well known.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there are a handful of issues that if you brought up, people would be able to give you an idea as to what's going on there, like how people feel. But this definitely seems to be one of those issues that's gone completely under the radar.
Well, when I discovered it, I knew about this before I went into the bachelor house, probably only by a few months, but I remember stumbling across it in the middle of the night, and I went, what is this? I don't understand, because I've always had this affinity for orangutans. I don't know why. I have always wanted to go and work in the jungles of Borneo and film documentaries. Is
that because you're redhead? And, you know, they kind of have the whole kind of
I'm
orangey
naturally
red.
blonde, would
Actually,
you believe?
no, I would not believe that. Oh, because when you mentioned you had a blonde moment there, I'm like, what are you talking about, girl?
Yeah.
Nothing blonde about you. You was, intelligent. You got this redhead.
Underneath, it's still blonde, let me tell you.
Okay.
But so I discovered all of this, and I started reading and researching, and I just couldn't believe that the problem had gotten so bad, and I knew nothing about it. And so I started following pages and things like that, and it was something that my friends weren't aware of. And as I started sharing information, my network started becoming aware of it. It was frustrating to some people. It was really empowering to others. But that's the biggest thing. It is about education, and a lot of these companies, as the education is growing, are hiding palm oil underneath a raft of different names, and that's how they get away with it. So there is an app that is not far off being released, and it will basically make shopping really easy. It's a free app to download. It is almost, it's this close to being ready, which is so exciting.
Is this part of your work?
It's part of the work of a company or an organisation that I am very closely affiliated with, Palm Oil Investigations, and they're all about educating people about which products contain palm oil, are palm oil free, or are using certified sustainable palm oil, because there is obviously a difference. And basically this app, people will be able to scan the products in their pantry and discover if they are using certified sustainable palm oil, if they're palm oil free, or if they're using basically dirty palm oil, and then they can make shopping choices accordingly. And it really is up to the consumer. The consumer has a lot of power to make
Absolutely.
change.
And I love the fact that you're standing for something and you're getting this information out there. I know that we've discussed this at length, but I think one of the hardest things to do is to stand for something that you believe in, because there are a lot of people out there that get frustrated when people like us are putting these unpleasant videos sometimes. And I mean, you don't want to be the kind of person that's rocking the boat, even though you do, because it makes you that pariah. People think of you as the person that is going to be making them feel bad. It's emotional blackmail, but it comes down to not being able to live with yourself. I mean, me personally, one of the hardest struggles I had, and I actually got into a very heated conversation last night in regards to this, is standing for things I believe in without being a douchebag. Because ultimately, and I think we all want to get along with people. I think we all want to be accepted, but we all want to be as honest with ourselves as we possibly can be. And it's difficult finding the meeting between standing for what you know is right and not becoming one of those, I often say, Bible bashers. I recently saw this video with Russell Brand, who I absolutely adore because he's very charming, and even though he stands for what he believes in, he's very diplomatic about the way he expresses opinions. But he brought these Christians, I shouldn't use the word Bible basher, that's obviously that is a negative euphemism, but they were the worst people that I've ever seen put forth a view. Basically, they came in there, they're talking about homosexuality, how it's evil, blah, 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 and first of all, they came up with a picture of Russell Brand saying that Russell Brand is a fag or something like that. And Russell's like, oh, so why is it you have a picture of me like that? It's kind of inflammatory, isn't it? I mean, what are you doing over there? And they're like, well, they made the argument because we love you that we're doing this thing, that ultimately we stand for the truth. We care so much about you that we're going to call you all idiots, and you're going to go to hell. You're going to be burnt under the fires of hell forever. And just the whole approach, it makes people feel like shit. And I don't know if that's the most beneficial way in getting your message across.
I definitely don't think that it is. For me, I try and share the information that I have on my fan page and then also my Facebook page within my personal network. I don't push my ideas on people, but if they ask, I will tell them why and what I think. With that being said, if people bring food to my house and it has palm oil, I will say thank you so much, but I can't eat it. And for me, it's one of those things that once you've seen something or you've become aware of something, it's very hard to unsee it or unlearn it.
Yeah.
So for me, that's how I live my life. Once I knew there was no going back. I cannot eat something knowing that it's got dirty palm oil in it. With that being said, if I go to somebody's house and they've got, I don't want to start putting labels on different foods, but you know, Tim Tams. I love Tim Tams.
Okay.
Arnott's use
you've
dirty
hit a nerve here with a
Yeah.
lot of people there. Don't be taking my Tim Tams away, no!
But you know what? There's an easy solution. If they track their palm oil and use certified sustainable palm oil, there is no issue. But for me, until that happens, I personally am not eating Tim Tams. I don't tell anyone else not to. It's my choice. But it's, you know, I'll look for a different alternative if I want a biscuit and have that. But I won't go into someone's house and say, you can't have that because, you know, that's not fair. All I can do is sort of let people know that it's something I care about, and we sort of move forward from there.
It's a tough one because, look, I know another commonality we have in activism is, look, I'm a big animal activist. I know that you obviously are definitely on some level as well, and I definitely support the idea of doing it for yourself, but a lot of the arguments activists make is that when you're seeing your friends suffer from the habits of other people, like, it's not enough to simply say that, look, I'm going to do what I can, but it's incumbent upon you to get the message out there, and by not telling people what they're doing is wrong, and this is the other argument to it, you're basically actively allowing that stuff to go on, and it's a difficult thing to hear.
Look, there's a couple of points to this. First of all, look, I agree with that, and my friends that are open to it, I will tell them. I've got friends that, you know, I care, and then they'll pull something out of the fridge or the cupboard, and I'll say, you know, that's got palm oil in it, and they go, oh, don't take this away from me, you're ruining it. And I'm like, no, do you know what? You'll eat cleaner foods and more whole foods, and, you know, look at the positives. I always thought I ate really well, and I always have eaten quite well, but my diet has improved considerably because if you're eating fresh whole foods,
absolutely,
you're not consuming the palm oil. But I think you have to be careful because, you know, you have these relationships in your life and you want to nurture them and keep these people, and you can't bash people over the head with this information and this expectation that they have to live by your standards.
That's exactly how I feel.
My other argument with this is, you know, I had somebody recently commenting on my Facebook page because I am doing the Australian Teenage Expo. It's quite well known that McDonald's, who is a sponsor of the expo, cooks in palm oil, and so somebody was having a go at me for being at the event.
And there's more to that. I mean, a lot of it, look, I know this is going to obviously piss a lot of people off, and they're going to say, oh, no, you're not one of those animal activist hippies, but yeah, they also, I mean, the way that they treat the chickens that are obviously used, and there's a whole bunch of things that I could go into. Yeah,
there is a number of it, but the woman that came to me was saying, you know, how could you go to this event? You know, you say you stand for this, but you're doing this, that, and the other. And she's talking about all these grey areas. And my argument to that is, okay, yes, they cook in palm oil. Yes, there are alternatives, and yes, we need them to see that. At the same time, the Teenage Expo is an amazing event. It is phenomenal. It is so great for these teenagers to have so many options, information, and resources made available to them. On the flip side of that, we as an organisation that want to get the message out, I think changing behaviours is all about reaching the next generation and teaching them, because they will teach the adults in their lives and they will also change their behaviours, which will affect future generations. Do we miss out on the opportunity to educate 8,500 to 10,000 kids just because McDonald's is associated? Absolutely not. We go in there and we share our message, and hopefully that will change their behaviour, and then they can make the choices appropriately. I think we need to find a balance, and I think you can't be so far one way that you don't agree with about climate change, how animals are treated and all of that. And then on the flip side, you've
Yeah.
got the hardcore greenies, and I consider myself a greenie, but that want this utopian world that
Absolutely.
can't exist. You need to find a balance where economics and
That's true.
all of those issues can sort of
I
together.
feel exactly the same way. It's what I would call a transcendental attitude. I mean, looking at that from a religious perspective, which is very relevant. Obviously, everyone has different religions, and if you look at it from one perspective, a lot of those religions are in opposition to each other from the perspective that they're saying one thing and the other religion saying another, but there are definitely common threads within each religion, and the whole transcendentalism is about finding what unites you and working together, identifying that ultimately you're basically trying to express your connection to God in different ways, through the Quran, some through Allah, Buddha, Krishna, whatever, and it doesn't matter, and trying to find what unites you and working together and applying yourself to do the thing which is the most common thing within religion, which is basically to bring about goodness, and the golden rule, as they say, you know, like do unto others as you want to be done to yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's more important than saying because you support this person in your religion and this person is directing a contradiction to my God, I want you to die. Obviously, that's not it.
Well, this is the whole thing, and most people sort of within religion want to live peacefully and side by side next to other people. You know, I am friends with every colour, creed, nationality, anything you can imagine. I do not care where somebody comes from or which God they worship or look to. It's all about how you treat me, and if you treat me well, I'll treat you well. It's very, very simple. But unfortunately, I think with religion, most people feel that way, but then you get the people that are so far involved. I don't know what the right
extremists.
word is, but yeah,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that want to go and create this tension and kill each other, and it's just
Absolutely.
insane. You know, we're all humans. We all want to live together.
Absolutely. I feel exactly the same way. I find that, look, basically on any issue, in any ism, there is always going to be extreme poles. There's going to be one group of people that are telling you that, look, it's not good enough to say that you're doing this, you have to convert every single person, you know? Jihad, whatever. And then you have the other people that don't want to do anything, and they take on the exact opposite approach. And I think it's about finding the medium. And, I mean, one of the things about my podcast is I do try, it's basically about the different dynamics. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a singer, I'm an artist. There's that whole dynamic going on. And then I'm also very much into sports and intellectual pursuits, things along those lines. And to me, it's about finding the synthesis. I mean, there's this idea of the warrior poet, the idea of someone that has both wrestled with his masculinity, is come to grips with that, but also has the ability to be vulnerable, and to be kind, compassionate, and adopt those attributes that you probably find within an artist or someone of a different ideology. And it's about finding that balance between both mediums. And I think you can apply that to anything rather than becoming extremist. I think you need to find that middle approach to it.
Absolutely. And I think the same can be said with politics. We're hitting on all the topics that people say you should never talk about, politics, religion, all of this, but it's the same thing. We've got politicians that is at so far at each end of the spectrum. What we need to create a great country and all of that is to have somebody that's sort of closer to the middle, that can see both sides, the balance between the economics of the Liberals
Absolutely.
and, you know, looking after the workers as far as the Labor government's concerned, and then also bringing in part of the Greens policy. But everyone is at such extreme ends of their belief that it makes it really difficult, and that's why politics divides people the way that it does. If we had sort of someone sitting in this middle ground, I think it could be like a massive game changer.
Thus the idea of the philosopher king, or even the warrior poet. Like back in ancient times, the person that was ruling was not only a warrior that had experience, understood how horrible war was, therefore wouldn't just run into it like a lot of these politicians and say, we're going to send 1 million people to battle because, you know, it needs to be done. They actually realize that it's one of the worst things and it's a last resort. And obviously they had this understanding as to how the world worked, as to politics, so that when they make a decision, it's coming from this understanding of what war is about. There's nothing more frustrating to me. I mean, look, I obviously abhor the idea of war, but I understand why people would make the argument it's necessary, but it's the people that are for war, but they don't want to know anything about it. They don't understand what actually happens to people in warfare. These these spent uranium bombs that are, the spent uranium shells that are dropped on so many people. You see the aftermath, and it's horrific. The pain. I mean, my dad was a lieutenant commander in the Navy, and some of the stories, I mean, just as a kid, kind of shook me up. I was a little silly in the sense that I wanted to, I shouldn't say this, but I was very kind of gung-ho. I want to join the Army, that kind of stuff. And then once I actually found out what war was about, I'm like, you don't want to enter this thing under any circumstances, unless, of course, people are encroaching on your sovereignty. And if it was a situation where people were coming into my house and killing my family, then obviously, I mean, I believe in self-defense. But people not to even want to know, when you show them these images about what goes on in these places, they're like, don't show me that stuff. Well, if you were going to be in support of it, I think you should at least know what you're getting yourself into. That's the issue that I have trouble with.
Look, I agree with everything you've just said. I posted on Facebook recently because people had been talking about, you know, if I see another hurt animal on Facebook or another photo of, you know, kids being injured in Gaza, I'm going to delete you. And I sort of thought, are you kidding me? You want to live this happy, free life, but you know, this is what's going on on the other side of the world, and we need to be aware of this. And yes, it's difficult to look at, but not everything is about selfies and self-indulgent and the narcissism that our society's kind of heading towards. My father was in the army. He was I think he was a sergeant. I hope I've got that right. During the Vietnam War, and we have had conversations about the things that he faced and went through in those battles. And you know, it's horrific. And this is sort of before, you know, today's sort of wars, which are very much
even
from
more
a distance
intense.
and
Insane.
you know, and a lot scarier. This was sort of face-to-face combat, and it's just horrific. I am a massive fan of Bill Clinton.
Okay.
I think he was a phenomenal president, and even to watch interviews with him now, I know he's no longer the president, but all of his personal dalliances aside, because what you do in your personal life is your business.
You can admire certain aspects of one person, not admire everything. And everyone,
but he didn't want to go to war. He was a real person about, let's sit down and talk about it and see if we can figure it out before we get to that point. It's just, and even to speak to him, I saw an interview when George W. Bush was in power. Now, George W. wanted to go in with guns blazing and kill everybody that wasn't American. He was very much sort of gun happy. Yeah, and to watch an interview with Bill Clinton during that period and talk about his take on the whole issue, and he wanted to sit down and have the leaders of the countries involved have a conversation and see if we could work out some sort of peace treaty or something like that. To me, that's very admirable. It
is admirable, but to be completely blunt and honest, I mean, if you're still going about... I remember watching the war when Bill Clinton was in power, and a lot of the times, at the same time he was going through his whole scandal with Monica Lewinsky, and it seemed as if every time there'd be a headline about him doing something with Monica, there'd be more airstrikes that'd be launched in the Middle East or something like that. And to me at the time, it almost seemed as if it was a diversion from what was going on in his private affairs. But to me, it comes down to this. If you are the commander-in-chief of a country, and this is something I have a lot of trouble with, a lot of politicians, they politic and say that they don't truly have the power, that there are all of these other factions within government that have a say, and they don't really have any power at all. I believe there is some truth to that, but I understand enough about the United States legal system, or not the legal system per se, but the powers of the president. And if you wanted to remove people from that country, or your soldiers, you absolutely can do that. As commander-in-chief, you have the power to do that. You will have to deal with other, obviously, factions, but to not do that and say that it's because, you know, there are other people that were telling me that, look, if I did this, I'd have to do that. It doesn't really hold water to me. You have the ultimate say as to whether or not you want to go to war.
I agree. The flip side of that is, once you're involved, it's not as easy as just saying, right, we bring everybody home. You've gone in and you've created this environment, and people are reliant on you. You know, was it? Oh, I've got to get my story straight here. Was it with the Iraqis that they said, well, we can't just walk out because the whole country will collapse? So they had to train people.
Both Iraq and Afghanistan. That's always the argument they use.
So they had to train people up, and in fairness, that is a reality. And look, I don't know everything about American politics, but all I can say is, watching politics for the years that I have memories of, Bill Clinton was the most proactive and peace-oriented leader that I think we've had in the time of my memory.
Okay. Well, I loved other aspects of Bill Clinton. The fact that he was charismatic. Yes. I kind of look at the whole thing as more of an entertainment medium. If I want to look at their actual political stances, I don't really agree with any of them. I mean, I agree with certain aspects of what they do, but for the most part, I'm just completely against the whole notion of war. But I do love that the guy was incredibly diplomatic and the guy was charismatic as hell. And I mean, just purely from a kind of person I'd want to sit down and chat to, yeah, I think he's definitely up there.
Oh, he's just so highly intelligent. Every time I watch an interview, I'm just captivated by him and his thoughts and, you know, the intelligence that is there, whereas I don't think I could have had the same conversation with George W.
It would have been interesting if Bill Clinton was on The Bachelor and you got to spend some time with him. Do you think you would have liked him better than Tim? Of course, he wouldn't have the body to match.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think he would have had the body to match. I think I would have really enjoyed my time with Bill. Just from a conversational point of view, to me, intelligence is one of the sexiest things that.
I was just about to ask you that. It's interesting. I was on the verge of my tongue because I wanted to pick your brain. Because obviously, it is a huge factor to you. I mean, I think as you become wiser in age, you don't tend to be as shallow as I am, and you're like, oh, this girl looks hot. Okay, let's talk to her. No, you realize that a connection is the most important thing, and I would imagine more so from a girl's perspective, because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think when you are at the point of, obviously, being a very attractive lady like yourself, which you are, and you realize that, look, there are many guys that have the physique, that have the physical characteristics, but the areas that are not as high in supply, such as, let's say, sincerity or vulnerability or whatever that might be, or intelligence, integrity and all that kind of stuff, you start putting your emphasis on that in a relationship, and your whole attitude towards attraction tends to change. Well, guess for the better.
Look, there's no doubt that attraction plays a really big part in, you know, meeting someone. There has to be that physical attraction for there to be a physical side to the relationship. With that being said, none of the men that I have dated look anything like the others. There's certainly not a pattern for me. You know how for some people it's about blondes or brunettes or really tall men or sort of smaller sized men. For me, it's very much I meet someone, and when I start talking to them, intelligence is a huge part. They need to have a sense of humour, and it all kind of needs to fit in together. And for me, the other thing is I'm a very strong personality, and I'm aware of that, and I can't change who I am. So I need someone that can go toe to toe with me, not someone that wants to be
absolutely
dominated or anything like that. I need someone that can really hold their own. And if I'm giving my opinion and I'm totally wrong, or I've got my facts twisted, I want them to be able to tell me and go, no, I want to be able to learn from these people, and I think I want them to feel the same way.
I definitely got that vibe from you speaking to you at the launch party when you were talking about The Bachelor, how you weren't the kind of person that was just going to say, I love you, even though the producers wanted you to say things like that and to be all submissive, and which I think a lot of guys, I could be wrong, I don't want to generalize, everyone is different, but I think a lot of the male environment, they feel as if a girl has to have certain characteristics, and being maybe feminine, and what I associate with femininity is more of, submissive, don't be telling me off, all that kind of stuff, and yeah, I guess when you challenge that notion, it makes things, a little interesting. And I guess it's cool when you find a guy that appreciates that. I suppose if you're trying to stand out, if a guy, like, let's say Tim, who is obviously a very attractive guy, and is getting all of these girls jump on his lap, when you meet a girl that is actually willing to challenge you, is calling you out on your bullshit, that's actually highly stimulating, highly attractive.
Well, I need someone that feels that way. Look, I've met some gorgeous guys when I've been out and sort of, you're doing different things, you meet different people, and I meet some guys and I think, oh, you're nice. And then I start speaking to them and I think, oh, I will steamroll you in a second.
You remind me of one of my favorite commercials on TV, like a few years back, where this beautiful girl sees this African exotic guy, at the aisle, and she's thinking,
the coffee one?
I'm not sure if it's the coffee one, but she's like, oh, how you doing? He's like, and it was his accent, but it wasn't consistent with what she imagined. It's like,
Yes.
oh really?
Yes,
And it was like,
the coffee ad. I know
yeah,
exactly which one
and
you're
it was just
talking about.
hilarious because there wasn't anything that had to be said, but it just showed the distinction between what you perceive someone to be and what they actually are, and sometimes all it takes is just a few moments of actually hearing what they're about, and your perceptions are completely shattered. But
I always say I can't be with a man that's more vain than I am. So to meet a man, he might be beautiful. All
damn
of
it,
that,
I'm always checking out my ass.
but to have a guy that's taking selfies every 5 seconds and he's staring at himself in the mirror and cares more about that than sort of the bigger issues in life, for me, that's boring.
I think a
it
lot
gets
of
really
girls feel that way.
while.
Absolutely. I'm always very picky about like discussing this kind of stuff because it is a little contentious and whatnot. But I do have certain ideals and look, it's neither good or bad, but what I associate with femininity, and I've gotten called up on this a lot of times, with my gay friends or feminists that tell me that it's not one-sided, that a girl can be guy-like and guy can be girl-like, and that you should never look at a girl like that. But I associate femininity with what I would call feminine. Like, I always imagine that a guy tends to be a bit more masculine. When I say masculine, I mean more, let's say, I'm trying to pick the right words here and be diplomatic, but I'm not more courageous. Like, when it comes to actually being stronger physically, when it comes to being more blunt, and a girl tends to be more nurturing and softer and compassionate and sincere. And whereas it's not important when it comes to friendship, I admire courage more than anything, but if I find a girl that, let's say, is more masculine than I am, or I am more feminine than a girl is, it becomes this weird dynamic. But of course, everyone's different.
Well, I think you're right in what you said, and I think there are a lot of guys that quite like being the weaker one in a relationship. I've got
dominatrix.
Yeah, well, it's not even that, but there are men, and again, this could be seen as a bit controversial, but it's that almost Freudian sort of mentality that if they've had a domineering mother, they want a domineering wife.
Oh, I've heard that so many times.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, that's not attractive, but I've got plenty of friends who that sort of relationship, it works for them, and fantastic. For me, I consider myself to be quite feminine, and to be feminine, but I sometimes think I'm wired like a man. Just my mentality, it's a no bullshit approach. It's just, this is who I am, take it or leave it, and I am not backwards in coming forwards, and it's,
absolutely,
it's quite simple, it's quite cut and dried. You know where you stand with me.
Absolutely. It's that fire of the redhead, right? Yeah. I keep saying you're a redhead, but I know it's more orbiting color just from the way I'm looking at it right now.
It's all right. I'm an Aries.
Aries? Yeah, that's true. That's very consistent with that. I know that's another big thing that you're into, the whole school of astrology and divination, as it's called, and I'm a big fan of that as well. My dad was hugely into the whole realm of things. I mean, that's why my name's Krishna, and I mean the whole connection with the Hindu, the Vedas, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's interesting when I meet people, particularly from India, because I'll introduce myself as Krishna, and then I'll get into this long conversation about their religion, and it's fascinating because I'd say that one of the biggest layers to me is the fact that I am into this whole other world of astrology, divination, religion, philosophy, and publicly I'm very one-dimensional. It's kind of like when you're out there at a gig, it's very kind of like shallow, like, yo, what's up, girl? Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Like the typical attitude, I think, that is associated with African Americans, and it's pretty cool when you meet someone that is able to talk with you on that level, that you're actually able to connect with outside of the one-dimensional facade of normality that everyone behaves under. There is something to you that is weird, but it makes you all the more attractive. Because
I don't consider myself religious at all. Religion is a whole nother conversation for me, but I do consider myself to be incredibly spiritual, and for me it's about being in tune with myself, having that inner peace. And not only that, my life isn't ruled by astrology, but if you follow astrology and you follow where the planets are and what they're doing and what it means when they're crossing each other, in conjunction with each other, all of that, it's incredible how accurate it is if you look at world events and the events that are going on in your own life. And so I'm always aware of what's going on, and when people are having a really hard time, or if I've had a really bad day and I look at sort of what's been going on with the planets, you can sort of go, okay, this is what's going on, these planets are at hard angle, and that's a really tough energy to sort of get through. But tomorrow everything's shifted and it's a brand new day, and you can do it that way. And I think if you know yourself and you're at peace with that, and you use the astrology, so you go, okay, so that's going to be a tough day, maybe I shouldn't have this conversation on that day, I should just sit and breathe and let it go for today, and then have the conversation tomorrow. It can be a much more successful conversation than what it would have been had you done it on a day when there's just that tension and friction in the air. And so for me, it's a better way and a more peaceful way of living.
I completely agree. I think it's a great way of keeping track of your psychology. I think a lot of us, we obviously look at a watch to find out what the time is so that we can mark our days and figure out what we need to do. And I would say that astrology is another level. I mean, obviously we have different modalities for measuring different systems. For instance, we have a watch for measuring hours, minutes in a day. Obviously we have the months to... We have different seasons, obviously, as well. And I'd say that astrology is another clock. It's measuring the cycles that you go through in your psychology. It's measuring the different states that you encounter. And just like we look at a watch to find out, it's 9 a.m. I got to get to work. I think by knowing where you sit psychologically, it allows you better to navigate the difficulties of life.
Absolutely. And I mean, for people to say that astrology isn't relevant and it's a whole heap of hooey.
Airy fairy.
You look at, I mean, just the way the moon affects the ocean. When it's a full moon, the tides are higher and the water will come in a lot faster. And I mean, that in itself, it's affecting the world in a very physical and visual way. And so if that's happening, it has to affect the rest of it.
Without a doubt. I think it's only a matter of time. I mean, one of the things that I find, obviously it's never really accepted, but I think we're going to accept the idea pretty soon that there is this link between science and, well, I suppose what you'd call spirit, metaphysics, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, something like astrology, which now in the scientific way of looking at things seems very kind of hooey. I think eventually we're going to arrive at the idea that, yes, there's something to it. It's just that based on our level of technology, we don't have enough of an understanding. We're able to measure exactly how it works, but just like maybe 100 years ago when we didn't understand how electricity worked or how the microbes worked, and now we do. I think we'll all understand the interconnectedness of things and see how everything affects everything else. Well,
there is that scientific sort of mentality that if you can't see it, it doesn't exist. I mean, I can't speak for other people, but for me, I've lost some incredibly important people to me, and my mum being one of them. She died quite young. And there are particular signs that let me know that she's around, and it will be owls are not common things to be seen. I have gone for walks through the CBD or Toorak, and there will be an owl sitting on a fence looking at me, and it will always happen at a moment where I'm having a conversation with her or sort of amusing to the universe, saying, how am I going to get through this, or am I on the right path, am I doing the right thing? And all of a sudden there'll be an owl sitting on a fence looking at me, and I'm like, okay, I am on the right path. Things like that, particular songs that are not frequently played songs. My mum's song was Don't Worry, Be Happy, Bobby McFerrin.
Oh, that's a classic.
80s. She loved that song. And if you
I love your mum already. It sounds a little weird, but yeah.
If you were having a bad day, she would burst into song.
That was my song to sing as well.
Yeah, very similar to things
Life
that I do.
has its troubles when you worry. I love it. It's the number one song to put on when you're feeling down. Yeah.
Yeah. So things like that. It's not a song that's played on mainstream radio because it's just it was from so long ago. But again, you're driving in the car having a really crap day, and it will come on. You just go, okay. So I sort of think there are a lot of people that even when they don't believe, they will take signs from the universe and things like that. So if you're taking that, there has to be more to it.
Yeah. Even from the perspective that from psychologically speaking, you see what you need to see from at the right time. Like, I think your subconscious, your psyche, whatever you call it, it has a way of communicating with you. Like, I look at you as being more than just this one-dimensional sense. I mean, obviously there's the subconscious, there's the superconscious, all this kind of stuff. And sometimes when you look at things, your subconscious has a way of finding meaning within it that you need, and then you're able to interpret that in the way that is best relevant towards bringing about, you know, whatever it is that you need for your personal growth.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is being open to it. You know, there are people that say, no, I don't believe, and they miss so many signs, and you sort of think, if you just relaxed and sort of went, yeah, I want to see this, you know, and I think the universe will, if you're not open to it, try and get signs to you through somebody else. So if somebody might see something and call you and say, did you know? And it's that moment where you think, oh, how did that happen? Like, it's just bizarre. And I think you just need to be open, and it's amazing what the universe will tell you if you are.
Absolutely. You know, this whole conversation is along the lines of a movie I recently saw. It blew my mind. I love sci-fis, and I gotta be honest, when my friends suggested we should check this out, I was like, oh no, a chick flick, really? It's called Lucy, and I had no idea it would be any good whatsoever. I was actually saying the whole way through, guys, really, Sonny's like my main man. Sonny, really, you want to watch a chick flick? What the hell? What is this? Come on, man. Who told you to watch this? But it was absolutely mind-boggling, and it's all around. Well, basically, I don't want to, you know, spoiler or anything like that. But look, I will just say that one of the themes is the interconnectedness of things. How when we're fully in line with our highest, the strongest version of ourselves, the oneness, whatever you want to call it, just how the world works and how we're able to see things from a different perspective and see meaning when there was no meaning. That's the only way I can say it without giving out anything about it. But I'm actually going to say it is one of the best sci-fis that I've ever seen. And coming from a massive sci-fi nerd, that's a pretty big call.
Okay, so for those of us that aren't into sci-fis, it's still worth seeing.
Oh, totally. Okay. Purely from the perspective of someone like yourself that I know loves, well, the personal development, spirituality, anything that's going to make you think. I mean, it's an amazing movie when it comes to the action scenes, all that kind of stuff. But just from the perspective of wanting to expand your consciousness, it is a masterpiece. Okay. It's along the lines of The Matrix, in my opinion. But
wow.
Yeah.
Good call.
Well, Gosh, I try to keep these things down to roughly an hour.
Yep.
And because you're so fascinating, I think we've gone well over, but it's copacetic. But thank you so much for coming down and doing into my very unprofessional setup over here.
No, I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun putting this out there. I won't be able to put it up there for another. Like, I figure you're probably bound to the same kind of stuff I am at the moment, where
I'm free now.
Oh, you're free.
I am free.
Lucky you. I still got another 2 months before I'm completely free.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
I should probably just mention, since some of my viewers are going to check this out, but for the last 7 months, I've been doing The Voice, and it's been an amazing journey. Got to hang out with will.i.am, who I'm a big fan of.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, he's a very cool. He is. The great thing about will.i.am is, outside of the fact that he's very, very cool, very hip, he is unbelievably soulful. He really. First of all, he wants everyone to get the most out of the experience, and he felt really bad about having to cut anyone, and you get that vibe with him. Like, when you look at him, he really feels for you as a person, and that's why I wanted to get on will.i.am's team. I mean, obviously, fortunately for me, he was the only one that turned around. He was the only one I wanted, but you really want to be with someone that has your best interest at heart.
Absolutely.
And look, amazing person, but so is everyone there. Ricky Martin is like, oh. I mean, look, no homo. Actually, homo, I don't care. I'd make out with Ricky Martin. I just say, no, he's such a perfect human being. I should, you know what? I'm going to share this with you because you're going to find this really fascinating. I got some pretty cool goss on Ricky and all this kind of stuff.
Tell me.
One of the greatest things about the experience for me was I met so many amazing people like yourself. It was this family, communal thing going on. It wasn't catty. Everyone wanted everyone to do well.
It's a great feeling when you're in that environment.
I met a guy called Lionel, who's a bit of a music royalty. He was related to Nat King Cole, and I got a little jealous about this guy initially because Anya, at the time, who's the winner of The Voice, kept on talking about how amazing this guy is. Like, Lionel's so amazing, this, and everyone was saying how awesome he was. I'm like, what is this? Who's this guy that is that amazing? He cannot be that amazing. I mean, it's got to be cool. And I had to meet this guy because basically Anya could not stop talking about him. apparently got Anya through a really, really tough moment. And, you know, I met the guy, and as soon as he opened his mouth, I basically, my heart, like, just fell out. And he's got one of these really beautiful voices, like, you know, man, I'm just trying to do my thing, you know, like, I really feel for everyone here, and, you know, you seem like a really cool, he is the nicest guy that you could possibly ever imagine. And his entire attitude was, he wasn't doing the show because he wanted to necessarily further his career. He wanted to, truly, genuinely wanted to network with people and help them out if there was a song that you needed. And just being around him, being able to be around someone that was so unbelievably vulnerable and so sincere, and throughout the entire process, like, he was the one that was looking out for everyone legally. Like, many of the clauses in the contract were directly related to Lionel having had a lot of experience in the past, therefore making many changes. And this relates to the whole thing I wanted to bring up about Ricky Martin. Like, one of the things I wanted to get into was Lionel was in Ricky Martin's team, and one of the things I heard about from Sabrina at the time was that basically there was a bit of a situation between Lionel and Ricky Martin where, understandably, the producers of the show, they wanted to know everything they could about Lionel's royalty, the fact that this guy's related to Nat King Cole, another one of his relatives, another big person in the industry. Therefore, they wanted to bring it up during the meeting. When you first meet your coach, one of the things that Ricky brought up was, you know, Lionel. And it purely wasn't him that was saying this. It's the producers that were telling him to say this stuff. So it was like, you know, Lionel, I'm trying to do a Ricky over here, you know, Lionel, can you talk about... That's a really bad Ricky Martin impersonation.
It's
but just,
not the best.
Yeah, just imagine this incredibly suave-esque Ricky Martin talking about how he's really interested in, you know, Lionel's background and wanted to find out about Lionel's, you know, family. And Lionel didn't want to have any of it. I mean, basically, he's on this show because he wants to make a name for himself, partly. He doesn't want to be bringing up his family all the time. So, you know, Lionel was like, look, I don't want to talk about it. Ricky pressed a little. And eventually Lionel, here's the thing, wait, ready for it? Lionel made a comment to the effect, I'm not 100% certain about the details of this because I heard this from Sabrina, and you know what rumors are like, but basically said to Ricky Martin that he knew who Ricky Martin's first kiss was. And Ricky's like, what is this? I don't know I have a first kiss. It's a little bit, but still retarded. Yeah, and Ricky was really taken back by it because obviously we go on this show to bare our souls. They're going to interrogate us. We're going to be made to feel a little awkward. But Ricky's a freaking star. He doesn't need to be subject to this kind of stuff.
No, he's proven himself.
Absolutely. So it was a little awkward for him. I mean, he doesn't want to talk about his first kiss. And Lionel apparently said who his first kiss was. And Ricky Martin, you know, whether or not it's true, I don't know. You know, it was like, you know, this is, what's this on? And Lionel basically said that to illustrate how it was uncomfortable when he brought up information about, like, because Lionel knows a lot of people, has information about this person, that person. And the reason he did that, even though everyone was really, apparently, was not the coolest thing, was to make Ricky Martin realize that it's not cool to have people bring up stuff about you that you don't want to talk about. But Ricky Martin was so unbelievably apologetic. Like, he went up to Lionel later on, apologized. You know, I'm so sorry. I did not want to do that. All I want is the best thing for you. And,
Your Ricky's getting better.
Thank you. And apparently it made the attitude, it made the girl's perspective of Ricky just go, like, crazy. Everyone was just so taken back by what Ricky did. And every girl that I met was just talking about how Ricky is the perfect person and so amazing. And
so I'm going to share a little bit of information with you now.
All right.
So one of the producers that worked on The Bachelor, he worked on The Voice. So it must have been 2012.
Okay.
And so that was the second season of The Voice, I think it was. And he was talking about Ricky. He could not say enough. And he had nothing but good things to say about all of the coaches. But oh my goodness, did he love Ricky. And Ricky's manager. Hilarious. The stories we used to hear, he just couldn't say enough. And everyone that I know that has met Ricky has said he is the most amazing stand-up guy.
He is. Even just watching him as he's on the judging panel, just getting into the songs, you know, and like, you know, feeling it. Like, a lot of people are critically analyzing you, but Ricky Martin, I love this line. I heard watching the the previews, you know, Ricky's like, "You touch my heart, I would touch the buzzer," that kind of thing. And he's just got this whole attitude of just wanting to be moved by music, and you see it coming across his voice. Like, I remember seeing like this little reel of him moving to all of the contestants perform and, like, you know, getting like, and it's so beautiful to watch a guy that is still very in touch with his masculinity but has this sensitive attitude that is not so common with males like that. He's so in touch with it.
He's real and it comes from his heart, and I think that's why it works with the viewers as well as it does, because there is no act, there is no forcing it. That is just him. And I mean, I haven't met Ricky, but to watch him, you can see that it's real. And I think that's where people really do respond. Now, I know we have to go, but I've got a question now.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the two of the judges, Benji and Kylie. How are they?
I didn't get a chance to have any words with Kylie outside of my audition, because outside of the audition, I mean, you actually spend like 10, 15 minutes sometimes just talking to them. You know, that was in my first audition. Obviously, they edit all of that. Kylie seemed really, really cool. When you say Ben, you mean Joel.
Oh,
No, that's not.
See,
you know,
the
it sounds
blonde.
not at all.
They're twins. I get confused.
But Joel was, look, I actually got to see him a few times just around the area, and gave him a fist bump. Seemed like, I would say, out of all the people that I feel like I could just hang with and not feel like, just outside of celebrity, he just seems like such a cool dude that you can just have a few words with, just like one of your mates, without the whole suave factor of Ricky Martin, or the the cool kind of like trendy nature of will.i.am. He's just a very down-to-earth guy, and I thought he was awesome. All the girls absolutely loved Kylie Minogue, of course. Apparently she's really sensitive.
Yeah.
And, there are a few little instances there where, for instance, there was a situation where one of my friends, ZK, they're part of this group. Apparently after their audition, it seemed as if they snubbed Kylie Minogue. Like, apparently they didn't give her a hug or something like that. But a lot of it just has to do with cameras. Like, basically after they got through, you're so excited, your emotions are high that you're just running crazy. And apparently they hugged everyone besides Kylie. And you see Kylie's face going, like, oh, I'm a little hurt like this, because they're human, you know what I mean?
Of course.
But yeah, apparently, she's and it's a beautiful thing. She's, she's sensitive, and yeah, she really, obviously is hurt by when people don't, I've heard, various conversations and that kind of stuff, but she's a beautiful, sensitive girl.
It's funny, because I always imagined that behind the scenes with The Voice, it was, sort of one big happy family. I know you were all competing and you were all on teams and had your coaches, but I sort of thought there would have been a whole lot more interaction between...
Oh, they definitely was. I mean, one of the great things is basically the first 2 or 3 floors, we're staying at the Novotel, they're all booked out mainly by us contestants, and we're all just hanging out with each other and having jam sessions. One of the cool things was I actually made it my goal to perform my song in front of as many of the contestants as I could, just to get some feedback and just to hear them. And I'll tell you something. One of the best moments was on will.i.am's team, when this is the first conversation we had with will.i.am, and everyone in the room. I mean, the great thing about sharing a room with people that are under the same mindset, that have the same work ethic as you, and they get the whole attitude, the whole dynamic of a performer. They want this thing more than anything. And the first thing that will.i.am was like, so you guys, you really want this? Like, this is your plan A, and your plan B is your plan A, right? Like, there's no other thing besides this. And he basically said that, look, if you have a plan B, you probably shouldn't be here. Like, every single person right here, you want this more than anything. And I remember everyone in the room, like, really zoned in and feeling that, absolutely. Every single person there has had to give up so much just to get to the point that they're at. And you found as the show progressed that people were having to call up work to quit their jobs, because, I mean, you can only take so much time off work. But one of the great things about being in an environment like that is that everyone shares this attitude of wanting this more than anything. And a lot of the times people don't, and it sounds really kind of, oh man, like, people don't get it, people don't understand me, I'm an artist, but a lot of people don't get the idea of wanting this thing more than anything, and they think you're a sellout if you go on a show like this, that you're shallow, you're an attention seeker, when it's just another gig, it's just another avenue to promoting yourself.
Absolutely.
And being around so many people like that were supported, they were all amazingly talented people. I mean, everyone, just to get to that point, has had to go through several auditions, and sometimes it's really hard to get an impression of someone just from a blind audition, but they're all incredibly talented, and just being able to be in the company of people like that is massively humbling. So I had an amazing experience.
Well, you're meant to surround yourself with people that share the same dreams, or at least are supportive of your dreams. Working in entertainment, my dad to this day says to me, when are you going to get a real job? You know what? I can't do anything else. I love being in front of the camera, and it's not a superficial thing. I love doing this. I've got a lot to say, and there's a lot that I want to share with this world, and I've tried to do 9 to 5. It just doesn't work. So,
Join the crew.
I'm feeling
Respect, girl. A fellow artist. I love that. I love that. So you obviously you present as well. I mean, you're a woman of many talents. So you model, you present. I know you do some modeling coaching as well.
Yes, I do all of that. You know, you've got to pay the bills. So modeling, I still enjoy. I love being in front of the camera, and I love being on the catwalk. And I really enjoy teaching all the younger girls coming and guys coming through about how to do all of this. But my passion is presenting, and ultimately I do want to be in the jungles of Borneo and doing documentaries and things that will really get a big audience, not just the hardcore greenies. I want it to reach sort of more people. And if I have children, I want my children to be children of the earth. I want them out there with me and understanding how precious these resources and things are. So that's the direction I'm moving in. Respect.
It's so great to see people that are actually striving for something that they're passionate about. I feel like a lot of people compromise because it's too risky, it's too hard, but I constantly think of the fact, particularly as I get older, that, you know, we're only here for a short time, and it's shorter than you think. As you get older, you realize just how fast the world moves, and you want to be relevant in a positive way. As in, I think one of the greatest things is being of service to people and actually doing something where you're having a positive influence on the world, and you can look back when you're in your older ages and say, this is what I did, as opposed to, oh, I worked 9 to 5, you know, doing something that I really wasn't passionate about, but I just did it in order to get myself a house, and now I don't have the energy to do these things.
I want to live. I don't want to just exist, and that's my outlook on life. And I've made it harder for myself financially, because in this industry, and you would know this, there are times where there's money and there's times when there's not, and you have to sort of budget for that. I've never had holiday pay. I've never had sick pay, and I've managed to make it work. And I just I can't imagine doing anything else.
Well, respect, girl. You know, kudos to you. I mean, you're obviously thriving. You know, I'm checking out your page, and I know you got your own place and stuff like that. So respect, and keep fighting the good fight.
You too.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time out to come on my podcast. Your time is very valuable, and it is always cool to have you know a big name like yourself that's actually been out on TV and all that kind of stuff.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And can I just say, I loved watching you perform at the Teenage Expo launch, and I can't wait to see you perform. I'm assuming you're performing at the expo?
Absolutely. I should probably promote that. Australian Teenage Expo. Actually, I'm not going to put this thing out before yeah.
But that's all right, for next year.
Yeah. But it's an amazing expo. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of people that have been on TV shows that are doing great things, like yourself. And it really just is an opportunity to get the message out there about inspiring children about, well, I say children, but, you know, they're almost adults now.
No, they'd freak if they heard us calling them children.
Yeah, I felt a little patronizing saying that. You little kiddies, you know, we're just trying to inspire you and make your life as good as possible. But
that's right.
There are a lot of powerful messages on the whole expo thing, and a lot of it is around job opportunities, what people can do once they graduate, and also about dealing with, you know, bullying and suicide. Like, I know we're both ambassadors of Bully Free, what's it called?
Bully Zero Australia.
I'm terrible. I'm ambassador, I don't even know what it's called.
But what an amazing organisation, and I don't know what you had to deal with coming off The Voice, but for me, oh my goodness, the things that I copped online were horrendous. So I wrote a few posts, not dealing with anybody in particular, but just sort of putting it out there and saying, hey guys, you know what? If you don't like what I stand for, you don't agree with my morals and all of that, that's fine.
Yeah.
Do not pick on me for the way I look and things like that. You know, this is a face I was born with. There's nothing I can do with it.
Yeah.
And who are you to criticise? I don't care if you're the most perfect person in the world. I'm doing the best I can with what I have. And, you know, there were radio personalities going me, and so I wrote about that. And I've written a couple of articles about how to deal with
the bullying, the criticism
online, and not only that, our behaviour online. And I think it's something really important that we all need to take responsibility for. So Bully Zero is a brilliant organisation, and they're going to be there hopefully teaching these
and this can open up another can of worms, which we don't need to go into, but I know it was definitely a big part of your whole experience, and it was a huge part of mine as well. I thought I was pretty good at criticism. I realized I wasn't, because I'd never been... I obviously got a lot of criticism being on The Voice, and I mean, I think a lot of it was the fact that I was trying to be different. The one thing I always tried to do is to try to make a difference, to stand out, and the fact that I was dancing during my performance, it it wasn't the most brilliant vocal performance. The song that I didn't really showcase my ability as a singer that well, and a lot of people were saying, like, what are you doing? You realize that this is a singing show, a lot of that kind of stuff. They were taking shots at my voice, and it's really hard when I guess you invest who you are in what you do, and I've kind of separated myself from that, even though I'm more into performing than I am anything. When people attack what you do like that, you take it personally.
Absolutely.
And it affected me so much, and I'm glad it happened, though, because you become stronger from it.
Well, you do, and the other thing is you learn to realise that a keyboard warrior isn't so tough, you know what I mean? I mean, these people are sitting behind a computer and pulling somebody down, and my belief, a stronger person will build others up and tell them how amazing they are. And if you don't like something, that's fine. Just don't look at it, don't follow them, why do you go on Facebook pages to write hateful things? Spend your time doing something really great. With that being said, though, I mean, for me, some of the comments about my looks, at times I probably didn't do my makeup so well,
That's nonsense stuff.
No.
It's the fact that anyone would even just say something like that, like the whole, we're just being honest. It's just stupid, hateful, unnecessary shit that people are saying because they want to get a kick out of seeing you respond. And, sorry.
What I was going to say
I get fired up.
I know, but do you know what? It's not even worth getting angry about, because these people, to me, aren't worth my energy. You put it into the positive things. But with you, okay, your performance might not have been the best vocally, but you've tried something new, and you either go back and refine it, or you go, okay, that didn't work as well as I wanted it to, and I need to do things this way. It's like, back in the day without all the HD cameras, it was much easier. You had to pile makeup on, and you had to do this, and you had to do that. With HD, you can see every line, wrinkle, lump, bump, and all that on your skin. And so again, you've got to learn to refine that and adjust, and everything is a learning curve, and that's what we're taking away from this. And people sort of sitting behind a keyboard writing hateful things is not helpful to anyone.
I tend to agree. It's kind of like snake oil. I've heard the theory, I think, by Joe Rogan. I listen to his podcast sometime. It's like snake venom. The more venom that you take, you build up an immunity to it. And there are actually people, I know there's a guy that lived to well over 100 that could basically get bitten by a snake and not be affected by the venom because he'd been slowly administering this venom into his system. And As you do. But it's supposed to be a metaphor for the criticism, the fact that every time you hear something like that, yes, it does hurt. We all obviously, beyond this facade of I'm awesome, nothing affects me, I don't allow people's perceptions of me to become my reality. We all care what people think about us. I mean, otherwise we would be
incredibly hurtful.
Absolutely. And you become stronger at resisting that stuff when you've dealt with it before.
Well, Sandra Bullock made a great comment a little while ago, and it was basically, what somebody else thinks of me is none of my business. You should never Google yourself. And I thought about that and went, that is brilliant. I quoted her in one of my articles. And my logic is pretty much the same thing. I don't care what anybody else thinks. And my social media space is a positive, loving, caring environment. And if you choose to come on and write hateful things, I'm happy to have people question me and ask me questions about why I do certain things, especially with the palm oil. That woman that wrote to me about, the grey areas and the sponsors that are, part of the Teenage Expo event, all of that. Happy to answer all of those questions. But the moment you come on and start attacking me personally, it's quite simple. Ban you as a user.
Totally.
I don't need that.
Totally.
It's really simple.
I think you need to filter out people like that from your life. I mean, it's just negativity that they're perpetuating. And I try to be as honest as I possibly can be, but I often hear the argument that, we're just being honest about this kind of stuff. Yes, but it's not necessary. Is it helpful? Is it necessary? I mean, before you blurt out hateful things, I think it is important to think about the net result. And when people don't actually filter out this stuff and see if it's actually serving a purpose, it does a lot more harm than good.
When I'm teaching, when I'm talking to kids or anybody about online behaviour, I always say, I talk about how to deal with the online bullies and how they should deal with it in terms of talking to people, blocking users and banning people from their pages. But I have 2 rules. When you are posting, ask yourself 2 questions. Would I say that thing to the person's face? And would I like it to be said about me? If the answer to either of those questions is no, do not post it.
Absolutely.
It's that simple. And if everybody lived by those 2 rules, the online world would be so much friendlier.
It's the anonymity that makes it so bad. People often, usually the people that write the worst stuff on YouTube have made some fake Google account, and yeah, and look, it is what it is, and obviously I think through time it will change. People obviously becoming more educated as to.
I hope that it will.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been so refreshing having this conversation with you, and got to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
You're a busy girl. Perhaps I can come check out one of your modeling catwalks or for presentations.
Love that.
Keep me in touch. Yeah, keep me posted. But Natalie, you're an absolute legend. You're beautiful. You're a scholar, and I love the fact that you're this amazing activist. You're actually standing for things that matter. So respect there, and thank you so much for coming to my podcast, girl.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problemo. All right, just gonna tune this thing out now. Got this little thing I got going on over here.
Now you put water into a cup.
Boom shakalaka.
It becomes the cup. You put water into a